Good afternoon, everyone. We have one student with us so far. Hello, Evelyn. Our presentation this afternoon is being recorded. So although we only have one student with us live, we have had a few dozen people watch the recordings from the last few days. So we're very happy that we have students, parents, and community members who are watching the recorded versions of our mental health presentations this week. So thank you very much for joining us. So again, this presentation is being recorded. So if you're joining with us live, please be mindful of that. So May is Mental Health Awareness Month. This week is Student Mental Health Awareness Week. And so every day this week at 2:30 p.m., we are doing a short presentation on mental health. It is Wellness Wednesday, so happy Wellness Wednesday, Red Devils. And so today our topic is breaking the stigma. So breaking the stigma when it comes to mental health, mental illness, and all things associated. So as we mentioned yesterday, the role of your school counselor has three main parts. So here at Sweetwater High School, we have 8 school counselors. We all help students in our Sweetwater High School community in the areas of academics, in the areas of college and career, and in the area of social and emotional well-being. And so this week, being Student Mental Health Week, we are focusing on the social emotional part of the role of a school counselor. So we're here to support you not only with academics, not only with college and career planning, but also with your social and emotional well-being. And so our objectives for today, we're going to define stigma. What is stigma? How is that related to mental health? We will talk about identifying the difference between mental health versus mental illness. So there's a difference there, and we're going to talk a little bit about that. And we hope that you'll be able to apply empathy skills within the context of mental health. So yesterday we talked a little bit about empathy and how it relates to mental health. So we're going to talk a little bit more about that today. So we're going to start with a Kahoot. So Evelyn, do you want to do the Kahoot with me? Do you know how to do Kahoot? Okay, good. So it's going to be you and me, my dear. Okay, so we're going to do a Kahoot. I'm going to continue as guest. We're going to do this here. All right, Evelyn. So you're going to go to www.kahoot.it. You're probably familiar with how to do this. And this is our code. So I'm going to put my code. I'm going to do it on my phone. And you can do it on your computer as well. I'm going to sign up here on my end, and we're going to go through some myths and facts about mental health. So we're going to play a little bit here. All right, so here I am. So Evelyn, if you want to join. All right, here we go. Okay, let's start. Thanks for joining. Can you see? You can see it on the screen, yes? Okay, good. Perfect. Okay, here we go. Turn the sound up a little bit. Okay, all of these questions are true and false. So true or false? Mental health and mental illness are the same thing. All right, very good. All right, you're beating me, Evelyn. All right, true or false? There are many types of mental illness, and every illness is different. All right. Yes. So there are lots of different types of mental illness, just like there are lots of different types of physical illness. And every type of illness, whether physical or mental, it's different. Each one is different. All right, you're winning. True or false? Mental illness can happen to anyone. It doesn't matter what you look like, what you wear, or where you come from. True or false? Yes. Mental illness can happen to anyone. It doesn't discriminate, just like physical illness. It can happen to anyone, anytime. Physical illness and mental illness can happen to anyone at any time. All right. Next question. If you have mental illness, you will have to be on medication for the rest of your life. Nothing else will help. True or false? Yes, that is false. And sometimes this is a very big myth when it comes to mental health. People think that you have to be on medication forever. If you don't do that, then nothing's ever going to help you. That is a huge myth about having mental illness concerns. All right, Evelyn's beating me really good. Maybe, Evelyn, you should do the presentation with me next time. You're becoming an expert. All right, true or false? People with mental health challenges have to take special tests to get a job or to go to college. People with mental health challenges have to take special tests to get a job or go to college. That's definitely false. There is no special tests. There's not even a question on job applications that asks you if you have a mental health, if you have a mental illness. Just like on a job application, they don't ask you if you have a physical illness. So it's not even a question. They wouldn't even know if you had a physical illness or a mental illness. So it's definitely not a factor when getting a job or going to college. True or false? Only kids get mental illness when they spend too much time online. So you're going to get mental illness if you're spending too much time online. True or false? Definitely false. This might be something your parents threaten you with. If you spend too much time online, you're going to have mental health concerns. That is not true. That is false. Question number 7, true or false? People with mental illness might have trouble handling schoolwork, a job, and daily tasks. True or false? This one's a tough one. This one's hard. Okay, let's see. So people with mental illness might have trouble handling schoolwork, a job, and daily tasks. This is true. Just like with a physical illness, if you broke your leg, you definitely have a hard time maybe doing your daily tasks because your leg is broken. So you're going to have a hard time getting around. So if you're having a mental illness, if you're having anxiety, stress, maybe some depression, daily tasks, your job, your schoolwork may be hard to do. And so every time we think about mental illness, if you replace it with physical illness, it should be treated the same. Whatever physical illness should be treated the same as any mental illness that we might be experiencing. So the answer is true. Question number 8 of 10, people struggling with mental health concerns sometimes don't reach out because they're worried about what others will say. We're missing a word there, but sometimes people struggling with mental illness don't reach out because they're worried about what other people are going to say or how they're going to react. Okay, this is true. So a lot of times people keep their mental health concerns to themselves because they're worried about what other people are going to say or think about them. And that's something we want to dispel. That's one of the stigmas that we want to eliminate when it comes to mental health concerns. Right, Evelyn, you're winning. If someone has a mental illness, they will never get better. True or false? false. Okay, just like with physical illness, just because you broke your leg doesn't mean your leg is going to be broken forever. That's the same with mental illness. You know, if we work on it, if we take care of ourselves, then we will get better. And I think this is our last question. True or false? 20% of students struggle with mental health concerns. True or false? 20%. This one's another hard one. True. So 20% is 1 out of every 5 students. So if you think of 1 in 5, 20% of students struggle with mental health concerns. So as a student, when you're sitting in class, you know, you're in a class of 30 students, that means there's 7 people in your class that you're sharing that space with that are having some mental health concerns. It's a lot more than we think. It's happening a lot more than we realize. And so it's important that we're aware of our peers, our friends, and our family who are dealing with mental health concerns. So Evelyn obviously won this round. She beat me good. Thank you for participating, my dear. All right, so let's go back to our PowerPoint. Okay, so these are all of the statements that were in our Kahoot that Evelyn won and answered very well all those questions. Good job. So there are lots of myths, which means they're preconceived notions about what mental health and mental illness are all about. And those were things we talked about during the game, the Kahoot. And then there's some facts too. So there are lots of different types of mental illness. People who are struggling with mental illness sometimes don't reach out or talk to other people about it because they're worried about what people will think, what people will say, how people will react to it. And it is true that people who are dealing with mental illness have a hard time focusing on school or their work. They have a hard time having relationships with people. It's hard for them sometimes to even do everyday things when they're dealing with their mental illness. So it's important that we understand the truths when it comes to mental health and things that are myths, are things that are misconceptions and not non-truths about what mental illness is all about. All right, so what is stigma? Stigma is a strong feeling of disapproval about a topic. So for a very long time, mental illness was something that had a lot of negativity tied to it. People didn't want to talk about mental health. People think, oh, mental health, they're crazy, right? And people didn't want to be seen as crazy. And so they didn't talk about mental health issues because they were worried about how they would be perceived, how people would treat them, what people would think about them if they had a mental health concern. Okay, so when it comes to stigma about mental health, we want to help each other, help our community, help our friends and family, get rid of this negative feeling that comes along with mental health and mental illness. Again, I like to always parallel the idea of mental illness with physical illness. So if I broke my leg, am I worried that people are going to treat me different because I'm in a cast and I have to be pushed around in a wheelchair? Maybe not so much. So it should be the same with mental illness or mental health. You know, I shouldn't be really concerned what other people think about me or how they will treat me because I'm having mental health concerns. I'm having issues with my feelings and emotions, and so we should treat them the same with support and understanding. Okay, so what are 3 examples of stigma that you might have heard of when it comes to mental health? So what are 3 negative thoughts, negative words, or it doesn't have to be 3, but what are some negative things that people think of when being associated with mental health? Yes, the word crazy. Crazy. You're just crazy. Or, oh, they're so crazy. Maybe even weird. Oh, he's so weird. He's so strange. Things like that. And that crazy, weird, strange, those are all negative words, negative characteristics that we associate with people who are having mental health concerns. And it's not a good thing. Those are things that we should be aware of, conscious of when we hear those things being said. Um, Sometimes we're guilty of saying some of those things too, but it's in presentations like this where we're able to think about the words that we use and the actions that we take when we're dealing with people having mental health concerns, and that we're careful not to use the words crazy, weird, odd when someone's having mental health concerns, that we're a little bit more sensitive or a little bit more aware and supportive of our friends and family who are dealing with stuff like that. Okay. So mental health, we all have it, and this is the state of our mental and emotional well-being. So there's mental health and there's mental illness, just like there's physical health and physical illness. So mental health, we all have it, and it's the state of our mental and emotional well-being. I think we talked about earlier this week that our mental health is kind of a scale. Okay, there's no black and white. You're kind of at some point in this range when it comes to our mental health. Even our physical health, we're kind of on this range. We're either like super healthy or not at all healthy, but we're kind of somewhere in the middle there, depending on what's happening with us physically. So mental illness is a diagnosable illness that affects a person's thinking, their emotional state, and their behavior. So when we talk about mental illness, it's diagnosable, which means you visit a doctor and they're able to assess that person, tests, questions, some activities and assessments for them to determine whether that person is having a condition which is negatively affecting their thinking, their emotional state, and their behavior. So that's mental illness. So just like if you're having an ache in your arm, or you're having a really bad headache, you have a fever, those are physical things happening to you. Go to the doctor, they run some tests, and then they diagnose you. Maybe you have high blood pressure, maybe you have diabetes, or maybe you have the flu. Okay, so they run all kinds of tests and they figure out what's going on with you to diagnose your physical illness. They do the same for mental health. Okay, sometimes people don't understand that you can go to the doctor and you can tell them, I've been feeling really sad lately. I've been really irritable. I'm always angry at people, or I don't like hanging out with other people. I'm feeling really depressed. Those are things you can tell your pediatrician or your doctor, and they will do an assessment like they would with your fever and your headache. They'll run some assessments to assess your thinking, your emotional state, and your behaviors to perhaps diagnose or identify any mental illness that you might be experiencing. So what do you feel is the biggest difference between mental health and mental illness? What do you think, or what do you feel is the biggest difference between mental health and mental illness? So you can pop that in the chat, or if you want to turn off your microphone and share. If you're watching the recording, you can just think to yourself, what do you feel is the biggest difference between mental health and mental illness? There's no right or wrong answer. This is just a question to kind of get you thinking about what it means to be mentally healthy or to be mentally unhealthy. For me, what instantly comes to my head is whether I feel good or not, because that's how I assess my physical health also. Like, do I feel good? Do I feel light? Do I feel happy? Do I feel like I want to interact with other people? Do I enjoy being around other people? Those are things that help me assess my own mental health. And some days I don't want to be hanging around with other people. I don't want to talk to other people. I feel very heavy. I feel pain in my shoulders. And that's when I check myself. Okay, maybe I need to do some self-care. Maybe I'm not doing well mentally today, so I need to do some of those things to help take care of my mental health. And so earlier this week, we talked about paying attention to those physical signs to identify when we're having mental health concerns. And that's kind of what I noticed with the difference between mental health and mental illness, is that physical manifestation of when I'm not doing well, when I may be feeling a little mentally ill. And so it's important that we pay attention to that. So empathy, we talked a little bit about this yesterday, is the ability to understand how someone else is feeling, or to understand the situation that they are going through. It's the ability to put yourself in someone else's shoes and understand the way a situation might be making them feel at that moment. And so we talked a little bit yesterday about friends and family that you might be around and they're not their usual self. You can tell they look a little sad, they're a little off, they're not their usual self. And it's whether or not you're going to show empathy to try and understand where it is that they're at with their mental health. Okay, you could totally just ignore the fact that they're not being themselves. Okay, or you can ask them, how are you doing? You know, is everything okay? Is there anything you want to talk about? So then they know that you feel them. They know that you're in tune to their feelings and that you notice that they're not their usual self. And just you showing empathy and being able to identify that they're going through something and that you notice that and you're there to help them through that, makes a world of a difference. So remember, we talked about that percentage earlier, that 1 in 5 people, okay, are going through some kind of mental health concern. So that means you're interacting with these people every day. Are you showing empathy to those people? You know, especially people that are important to you, like your friends and your family. Are you doing a check-in? Are you showing empathy? Are you asking them if they're okay? That's important, okay? And I'm guilty. Sometimes I don't do check-ins with people when I notice that they're not doing well. You know, we can't be perfect. We can't do it all the time. Sometimes we're busy. Sometimes we get caught up in our own stuff and it's hard for us to be there for other people, and that's okay. But it's in situations like this where we're giving ourselves an opportunity to reflect and think about those instances where maybe we could have shown empathy a little bit better, where we could have been a better listener, where we could have been a better daughter or a better friend, a better coworker, a better classmate. And so we're all learning. Okay, we don't expect everyone to be perfect, but I think part of this process of you watching this video or you joining me today is because you want to learn. You want to become a better person. You want to learn how to better take care of yourself and the people that you care about. And so empathy is the first step in doing that. So putting yourself in someone else's shoes and trying to understand the situation and the feelings that they're having at that moment. So we're going to watch a little video about empathy. Here we go.
Empathy is a choice, an opportunity to put yourself in someone else's situation, to view the world through the lens of someone else's circumstances.
Empathy is the ability to think about what someone else is going through, imagining yourself in that place. Empathy is seeing with the eyes of another, listening with the ears of another, and feeling with the heart of another.
Empathy is being there for people who are your closest friends or someone you don't even know.
Empathy takes work, it takes practice. Empathy requires each one of us to stop thinking only of ourselves and to start thinking of others.
In our world, everybody has a need for empathy, whether it is big or small.
Every day, in every school, students are made fun of, outcasted, looked down upon, and made to feel worthless.
Life can be lonely at times. It's important to feel like someone has your back.
We judge people when we do not understand them.
People say sticks and stones may break your bones, but words will never hurt you, as if that were true at all.
Empathy towards others encourages hope, encourages love, and encourages tolerance.
Respect people's feelings.
Even if it doesn't mean anything to you, it could mean everything to them.
Empathy shows the people that are hurting that someone cares and that they are not alone.
Instead of putting others in their place, put yourself in their place.
No prescription works like empathy can.
We must step out of our comfort zone and be the reason someone smiles today.
Empathy is like a wildfire. A simple spark can ignite a chain reaction of compassion.
Empathy can change the world, starting with just one person, and that one person could be you.
Wow, yes, very true. I like their examples. It puts it into perspective what empathy really means and how we can employ the skill of empathy every day. So that was a very good video. So why is empathy important? How can being empathetic break the stigma around mental health? What about using empathy to break the stigma around mental illness? So you can add your thoughts into the chat about how we can use empathy to break the stigma or the negative feelings around mental health. I think as we start coming back into our routine of school after quarantine, and as we are all healing from COVID, I think all the more we need to be more empathetic of each other as we start coming back and interacting with one another, sharing spaces with one another, teachers to students, students to teachers, parents to children, children and their counselors, like all of us back and forth. It's like it's reciprocal. All of us kind of have to be attentive to our behaviors, our words, our actions, and when we do notice people not being themselves, that we show empathy, we do check-ins, because the more we do so, the more normalized it becomes, the more common it is, the more normal it is for us to do check-ins on one another with mental health. So you don't have to be a counselor or a school psychologist or an adult to check in on someone who you might be worried about having mental health concerns, right? So empathy could help. I'm just reading the chat. Empathy could help see that with mental health, it isn't an easy, it's not easy to do everyday things, to not get mad or frustrating for somebody not doing something. Those are normal feelings that we have every day, that we get frustrated or mad and get angry at other people for certain things, maybe get our feelings hurt by something somebody said to us, but that we recognize that, and that people are affected by some of those things that happen to them every day, and that we offer our help, we offer our support, even just an open ear, just to listen and hear people out. So it doesn't necessarily mean that you have to have an answer to somebody's problems. Even as a school counselor, I don't always have answers to all of the questions, the challenges, and the problems you all bring to us every day, but I'm here to listen. I'm here to understand, and I'm here to support you. I wish I had a magic wand and I could wave it and make all the bad things disappear, but that's not always the case. But we can be there for each other to help us through those hard times and those challenging times. Thank you, Evelyn, for sharing. Now that we have an understanding of what it means to be stigma-free when it comes to mental health, or trying to dispel and get rid of those negative connotations, those negative associations that associate or link themselves to mental health, we encourage all of our Suhai family, all of our Red Devils, to make a commitment to eliminate the stigma and the negative feelings that come along with mental illness. There is this website. You can sign the pledge to be stigma-free when it comes to mental health. If you want to print it out or put it on your phone and take a selfie with it and post it on social media, and to tag us with the hashtag BeWellRedDevils with our handle Suhai Counseling. We'd love to see our Suhai family support in trying to dispel the stigma that is associated with mental illness. And so, I would like to thank you for joining us live or watching the recorded version of our presentation today. So this is day 3 of Student Mental Health Awareness Week. We appreciate your support. And if you ever have any questions or need support or need an ear to listen, your school